Well, here we are again. Welcome back to the Local Football Show, Episode 3. It's been a while since we've been here, partly because your host here developed a coughing fit just before Christmas, and then we decided not to come back around Christmas and New Year. So we're back now. But absolutely delighted to be back now with a co-host, Pete Sixsmith, who knows his local football inside out, and I'm very happy to have Pete on board for the rest of this season. Thanks for joining us, Pete.
My pleasure, Archie. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we've got plenty of subject matter in the weeks ahead that we're hoping to bring to our listeners. On a regular basis, we'll be talking about the weekend's results and the forthcoming fixtures, but in between all that, we've got a bunch of other subject matter that we want to cover, everything from the very grassroots of young footballers coming through, boys and girls, through to the ladies and the men's game at all the various different levels locally here in South West Durham, and hopefully bring you some special guests along the way. So we're really looking forward to it. I think this week we'll get straight on with having a look back at the weekend results, but I think we'll go back a little bit further because obviously we haven't been here since just pre-Christmas, so I think if we take it from sort of around about the Christmas time, it'll give us an idea of how things have progressed since then. I think even around about that time, Pete, Shildon were probably just about still top of the league, and then Bishop came to town.
I think Bishop were just top before they came here.
Yeah.
As I said before, they're a strong side. There's a lot of money being invested in the team. They've got a good balance. They've got a good manager. If you look at Shildon's results, the last 4 games, it goes win, lose, win, lose. Now, that's not really what you want if you're challenging to win the league. And as we know, the only automatic promotion is for the league winners. And then for 2, 3, 4 and 5, it's what can be a lottery of playoffs. And of course the playoffs are only one leg; they're not 2-legged ties. So for Shildon, they've really got to finish second or third because they get a home draw. Then preferably second because then they'll take on the 5th team at Dean Street. And if they win that, they'll be at home to the winners of the other playoff semi-final.
So, Pete, remind us then, how many, from the Northern League, is it just one other team that goes up into the playoffs?
No, one goes up automatically. The team that win the league go up automatically into the Northern Premier League 1 East. And then the team that wins the playoffs, the team that comes through the playoffs, they go up as well. Same applies in the Northern Counties East League. And they'll provide the Northern Premier League Eastern Division with 2 clubs. It's the same all over the pyramid. You know, the FA have now got the symmetry that they wanted, although it's hitting 1 or 2 problems because clubs are withdrawing. Now we've had Mask United who have withdrawn in this area, Nuneaton Borough, who were a really big non-league club. Very well supported. They've withdrawn from the Southern League. We've got teams in the far southwest who don't refuse to get promotion but don't try to get promotion because of the travelling. Yeah. So, you know, there are issues there. And some cynical people, not me, but some people who are cynical, are even beginning to suggest that some teams might deliberately avoid the playoffs.
There's a potential for this kind of farce to happen, isn't there? Because it was always, I think, the one of the main arguments about the Northern League not joining the automatic promotion, wasn't it? This kind of whole idea that you're going to get involved in all of this travel, all of this extra cost, the potential for that to then cause your clubs to struggle. We've already seen it with the likes of North Shields having to resign from the league as well above, come back down and are struggling now even in the Northern League as well. And yeah, I remember having that conversation years ago when it was first mooted that the Northern League would join the automatic promotion. Would be that what kind of ends to seasons are you going to have when someone accidentally finds themselves in a promotion spot that might end up causing them a little bit of financial worry?
I think it's a bit different now in that there's so many Northern League clubs in Northern Premier 1 East. And in fact, I think it's the other clubs who are complaining about there being so many there because they've got to travel. Pyramid's not perfect. I think by and large it works. It gives ambitious clubs a pathway. If you look at the league that Darlington are in, you've got a club like Rushall Olympic, who played at the same level as Shildon for a number of years, invested from wherever the source came from on a non-grass playing surface and have really taken off, and they're now playing at the highest level they've ever played at in National League North. Whether they stay there or not sort of the matter, but they are above Spennymoor and well above Darlington. So clubs like that, Warrington Town, I'm just looking down the Northern Premier list, the National League North list, teams who want to do well or teams who have come back from serious financial crises like Scunthorpe and Scarborough, they've got a pathway.
Yeah. And
if the likes, and I just pick these names out at random, if the likes of Crook and Penrith and Northallerton, and I'm nothing against any of those clubs, if they don't want to follow that path, then they've got some difficulties.
Yeah. Yeah.
They do have some difficulties, but clubs like Bishop Auckland, who've been saying for ages that what they want to do is to work their way up the pyramid, this is the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's the argument as well. I mean, if you're a football club in a league, then surely your ambition is to do as well as you can in that league, and if that means winning the league, then that inevitably means being promoted. So it's got to be part of your ultimate ambition if you are an ambitious club, to want to be in the pyramid in order to be able to take that pathway. But I suppose the opposite to that then is what happens to grassroots football if a lot of these clubs end up going by the wayside.
Well, they won't go by the wayside. The Northern League, as we said before, the Northern League will remain as it is. But the level will be dissipated because players will move. There'll be more money available in the Northern Premier League. Players will want to test themselves at a higher standard. If you look at Newton Aycliffe, who many people, myself included, thought would struggle this year, and even more so when they began to lose players in the autumn, are now standing at 8th. They're standing 8th in the Northern in NPL 1 East, and around them are 5 other Northern League clubs, ex-Northern League clubs.
Yeah.
And the 2 top clubs in that league are both ex-Northern League, Stockton and Hebburn.
Yeah.
And I think players they don't enjoy the travelling. I was talking to one Newton Aycliffe player the other week where they had to play at Belper on a Tuesday night in a rearranged game. Didn't get back until nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, had to be at work for 7 o'clock the next day, the same day. But that's because of postponements.
Yeah.
So I think we look at our league now, and we have Bishop Auckland going well. Yeah. We have Shildon and going very well. They've won their last 4 games, and they've got 2 very winnable games coming up. We've got ourselves and Shildon, who have hit a rough patch. They won very well at Redcar Athletic, well beaten by Bishop Auckland. A difficult game at Crook on a poor pitch, which they won, and then on the best pitch I've seen this season by a million miles at any level, managed to lose 3-2 at Penrith, having been 2 up.
Yeah, a bit of a collapse, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, and I think there are reasons for that. I think Penrith have a superb facility there. They've got a 4G or 5G pitch, which costs nearly £1 million. And there's no big benefactor at Penrith except they've got grants because they're an area. They have, if you go to Penrith, the whole Frenchfield area where the stadium is surrounded by football pitches.
That's right.
And it's an area which is used by the community. The football club have a huge footprint in the community, although not that many go and watch them. And they were able to apply for grants from county council, local council, goodness knows where else.
Yeah.
And they've got this superb, really, really superb artificial surface, far better than the ones at Constant and Stockton, which are showing their age a little bit now.
Mm-hmm.
And they dealt with the pitch far better than we did in the second half. So that's, it looks like Bishop Auckland are going to win it.
Yeah.
Shildon have got to look over their shoulder now at West Auckland, who are coming up. It fits and starts behind another team that win and then lose. They've won 2, drawn 1 and lost. Won 1, lost 2, and drawn 1 out of the last 4 games, including a whacking at Berkeley a couple of weeks ago. But then they've got Northallerton at home on Saturday, which they should win. And then an interesting game at Heaton Stannington in Newcastle. And Heaton Stannington have only played 17 league games this season. And they've got, 38 takeaways, 17,
wow.
21. 21 games to fit in between now and the end of April. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, West could effectively have, if they hadn't, well, I mean, they've only got 1 point out of their last 9. If they'd done anything better than that, they'd have been above Shildon by now. But, even Berkeley are kind of on their coattails now as well. They've got a game in hand, 6 points behind. So any more drop points from Shildon sees them beginning to, really slip.
Well, I think we can say reasonably safely that the next 2 games have got to be used to increase goal difference. They've got Towlaw at home on Saturday, who are, just dead in the water.
Yeah. And
then on the Tuesday night, they're away to Sunderland RCA, who are almost dead they are dead in the water. Both these teams are going to be relegated. Yeah. Both teams will be pleased to be relegated. They haven't been able to cope with Division 1 football. RCA resigned last season.
That's right.
And actually wanted to be relegated, but they've come back. And to be fair to both clubs, they've kept going. Mm-hmm. Towlaw not helped by the Towlaw microclimate, which every time I go there, I expect to see one of these missing emperor penguin colonies living up there because it's about this kind of climate that they would live in. And they're going to go back into the second division and hopefully rebuild. What Shildon can't do is drop any points to either of those two. They've got to beat them, and they've got to beat them comfortably.
They surely can't drop points to either of those two. I mean, not to be disrespectful to either of the clubs, obviously, but yeah, I mean, it's imperative that they take maximum points from those 2 games, and as you say, really should be in a position where they're increasing the goal difference significantly. Although, kind of looking at the goal difference at the moment, I don't think it's going to play all that much of a part because they are quite a good stretch ahead of
yes, they are actually
third and fourth in terms of goal difference at the moment.
And they're not going to catch Bishop on that then.
And they're not going to catch Bishop, who are already like 30, 20 odd goals ahead of them. But unless they win both of those games 12-0, we think we had that conversation the last time as well, didn't we? But yeah, so that kind of brings us up to speed with Bishop, Shildon, West Auckland, who are also 1, 2 and 3 in the league at the moment. So they're our local clubs and they're all flying pretty high at the moment. Right, okay, well, I just want to say also, just before we go any further, thank you to Bishop's Museum Shop, who are sponsoring our podcast. It's a lovely little shop full of memorabilia down in Bishop, just on the edge of the market square there. A comprehensive collection of local football memorabilia. Large collection of Bishop history, obviously, but also a collection from many other local clubs, including some that are no longer with us as well. So it's a place that's worth a visit for any fan of local football, and of course a place that we're very happy to be associated with as well, and we thank them for sponsoring the podcast. Right, okay. We ought to have a look also at how Spennymoor are doing.
Well, it's been a bit of a disaster for them, hasn't it?
Yeah. Surprising to see them.
They started well enough, but they've slid alarmingly, and they're in real trouble at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the National League North table, and There are 24 clubs in there. Bishop Stortford look as if they've gone. They'll be very unhappy next season about not having to come to Blythe or wherever. Darlington, I don't think there's a lot of hope for Darlington. I think they're more or less working on these, working on the basis that we'll go down and regroup. And then you've got Gloucester, Kings Lynn, Banbury, Southport, who are all within clutching distance of Spennymoor.
Yeah.
I've seen Spennymoor twice recently. I saw them play Kerrs and Ashton, and they were absolutely... It was a 2-0 win for the visitors, but Spennymoor were never at any stage in that game.
Right.
That was before they appointed Graham Lee.
Yeah.
I saw them against Scarborough, where they put up a really good show against a good Scarborough side who were keen to get back. They climbed their way up through the league. And that's the advantage of the pyramid system.
Yeah.
Scarborough went bust. They reformed. They've worked their way up through various steps, and they've got themselves now in a position where they could feasibly be in the National League next year.
Yeah.
Another club that's taken advantage of grants and have put a very good artificial surface down and built a nice ground. You even get the donkeys to come and watch them, because the field next to the ground is where the donkeys live when they're not carting children around along the beach. So there's a sort of donkey interest there. But
they're not called the donkeys.
No, they're not called the donkeys. No, the seagulls. I think they are. They've done very well.
Actually, I don't know how that works down in these parts, but definitely up in Scotland, if you're a donkey then, and a footballer, then you're probably not very good.
Oh, there's a few donkeys running around here. Yeah. If you see a few donkeys, and I think Towlow would be. I think a donkey might not want to be linked with Towlow. So Spennymoor have got a lot of hard work to do. They've got a difficult game on Saturday. They're away to Tamworth, who have done brilliantly this year in the top of the league.
Yep.
Nearly 9 points ahead of Scunthorpe. That's going to be really interesting.
So yeah, I mean,
there.
I think the other thing with Spennymoor at the moment is it just seems to have been quite a bit of turmoil there in the last few seasons with just like managerial merry-go-round. Ever since kind of Jason Ainsley stepped down, they don't seem to have really replaced them at all. Not properly, have they?
Well, they employed the two men from Manchester.
Yeah, I don't
think created a very good
impression. I saw them described in somewhere the other day as the Anton Decker football.
No. Bernard and his colleague are quite amusing. Anton Decker aren't. But they've done very well. I think I said last time they've done brilliantly at Radcliffe, who were top of the Northern Premier League, and will be going into this league next year, I would imagine. But I think with Graham Lee, they made a good appointment there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, obviously Graham Lee's come in, but at the beginning of the year. But actually, the results haven't been great since then. They've only picked up 1 point out of 9. But then any manager's got to be given a bit of time. Is this the guy who's going to bring a bit of stability to them?
Well, they need it, don't they? They need stability. It's very easy to sack your manager and then appoint a dud. I think Lee's got the experience, and he's brought his assistant with him, Ian Clark, from Musk.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's brought any players from Musk, actually, has he? I heard today that they've lost Anderson. He's gone to Retker Athletic, who seem to be throwing money around like confetti in the Northern League and haven't done particularly well with it this year. But they've lost players as well. Jarvis gone back to Newton Aycliffe and didn't like it there, apparently. So he's back at Aycliffe, which is good news for them. Spennymoor's next game on the after the Tamworth one is at home to Peterborough Sports. And again, another example of a club who have come from nowhere but have built themselves up gradually, struggled last season, struggled financially. They don't get big gates, but they're a well-run club and they're playing at a level that they're thoroughly enjoying.
Yeah.
They won't go up anywhere. They couldn't possibly go into the National League with the facilities they've got, whereas Spennymoor could. But that's the advantage of the pyramid, that clubs like that can get into position where they're quite happy playing at a good level of football.
But if Spennymoor Town do have ambitions to go any higher than they do, then Peterborough Sports are the kind of team that they're going to have to beat, aren't they?
Exactly,
They're currently 4 points ahead of Peterborough, are currently 4 points ahead of Spennymoor in the league. Yep. So this is a, and they've both played the same number of games, so this is a game that's really, in a way, at the Brewery Field, a must-win, really,
yes,
isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, they've got to win that one.
Yeah.
But I think Tamworth might be a game too far for them.
Yeah, I think so. Well, they're top anyway, so it would be a surprise to the rest of the league, I suppose, if Spenny
it would
overturn them, especially down at Tamworth as well. Right, so we've kind of pretty much sort of covered, not just, there's me thinking that we would do the results and then the fixtures, but we seem to have covered both of them. I think Pete's on a mission here tonight. He might be hungry for his dinner or something.
It's not beyond the realms of possibility.
There's one other team I think that we want to say a little bit about, who are obviously within our catchment area as well. One of the teams that we cover in our Ferryhill and Chiltern chapter newspaper, and that's Ferryhill Athletic. We're grateful to them as a club for regularly supplying us with content, and they're another team that have ambition. You know, they do want to come up as well. They do want to do better. They're currently in the Wearside League First Division. I think they got promoted. Didn't they get promoted last season?
Yes, I think they did from the second. Yeah, from the second. To the first.
And they're doing pretty well at the moment. I mean, they're recent. I mean, they're not playing very many league matches at the moment. They've only played 9 league games. The leaders, Belmont, have played 12, partly because they're busy in cup matches as well. So they've played in the Clemsmith Bowl against Bortley Town. They played a league game against Barnard Castle. They won that comprehensively. And they've just played this weekend Coxa in the Washington Aged People's Trophy first round, and they thrashed them 5-0. That game actually took place up in Sunderland, didn't it, Pete? I think on an artificial surface.
It did, yes. Sunderland's got a lot of artificial services. They've got 4 hubs in the city, north, south, east and west. Sunderland West End play on one of them in the Northern League Second Division. There's half the Wearside League playing on the others because they can be rented out. I mean, the other night, Durham Challenge Cup quarter-final, Newton Aycliffe versus Horden versus Newton Aycliffe. Fixture was switched to Newton Aycliffe. Newton Aycliffe's pitch wasn't fit to play on. So at the last minute, they moved it up to the downhill hub in Sunderland. Yeah. It's the advantage of being in a city, that the city council can do that. County like ours, because it's so disparate, so spread out, it's not possible to create those artificial surfaces by the local authority. I don't think there's any great willingness to do it anyway. But I think we're now coming to agree that at this level of football, artificial surfaces are the way forward. Look at the number of games that have been called off this year.
Yeah.
You know, I look at the Northern League fixtures at the start of the week. I write down the ones that I might want to go to. And then on the day of the game, I start looking from about 11 o'clock onwards for the postponements. And usually, at the moment, by 5:30, 6 o'clock, probably 80% of the games have been postponed because the pitches are either frozen or more likely than underwater.
Yeah. I mean,
so well done to Ferryhill and Coxo for getting their game on in Sunderland. That shows an imagination, shows a desire to play football by both clubs.
And we spoke to Ferryhill chairman, or chairman at the time, Fraser Reynolds, who's now stepped down from the chair role at Ferryhill Athletic. But he spoke to us in the last podcast that we did, the last episode. You were here as well, Pete, obviously, and he told us about their plans to develop their own ground and so on as well. I mean, presumably, if they're going to do that, they're going to have to seriously be thinking about developing a ground that's going to have an artificial surface.
Yeah, I would have thought so. Yeah. Certainly, if they want to, if they're moving up the leagues into the Wayside League Premier and possibly into Northern League 2 and 1.
Yeah.
I think an artificial surface would be ideal for them, but they don't come cheap.
No, they don't, and I think that's. I mean, I think the first time I saw a real success of it was up at Concert, and you could see there that it develops. It can be developed into a community club, and all of the young people, everybody else plays on the surface as well. We were up there watching to see a Shildon match, and I think for the whole morning and mid-afternoon before the Shildon game, there was there was countless numbers of young players on that pitch, and absolutely, heaving, clubhouse with parents and kids and all of the rest of it, and clearly it's a model that's worth investing in at this level if you can get the funding to do so, because you can bring all of those others in there as well. I mean, I know that Ferryhill have also played over at Whitworth Park recently, and they've developed their own 3G surface over there now as well. So I think a few games are being moved over there at times as well. But I think an artificial surface in each of your communities is probably something that's going to attract every element of the community onto that surface. So it should be something that can begin to pay for itself.
Well, not if you're spending £1 million.
Well, I mean, what I mean is, the club can become a little bit more sustainable as a result of the activity that's taking
place. But I think local councils are a bit strapped at the moment. I think I read that in the paper somewhere. So whether a county like Durham have got the wherewithal to commit that, the local MPs might be able to play a part.
I mean, Football Foundation, do they do these kinds of things?
Football Foundation do, yes. Yes. I mean, I think Shildon have looked at possibilities. It's a dream, but not a pipe dream. I think it will happen. But it's just a question of tapping into grants. But yeah, well done to Ferryhill. It's nice to see them coming back. They were a long-established Northern League side. Hit a really bad time in the 80s, went out in the 90s, almost disappeared, played in the Crookham District League, and they're now showing ambition and look as if they could be promoted at the end of the season.
Yeah, fourth place.
They've only lost one game this season.
Fourth place, lost one game, 6 points behind the leaders who've played 3 more. I think everybody generally agrees it's better to have the points in the bag, but certainly there's a target there for them. They could go higher. Head and Juniors look like they may be the favourites. Well, I don't know. They're a couple of points ahead of Ferryhill at the moment, and same number of games played. So it's pretty tight. It's pretty tight, isn't it?
Generally speaking, all our local teams are doing well.
Yeah, they do seem to be.
Bishop Auckland, Shildon, West Auckland, Ferryhill. Spennymoor need to pull their socks up a little bit, but I think they'll be okay. I don't think they'll get relegated.
Yeah,
I think they're strong enough to stop up.
I think we need to get Graham Lee over here and Ian Clark and have a chat with him.
Don't think Ian Clark will be made welcome in Shildon.
Maybe not. We might have to get him in under guard or something. But
well, he'll probably leave after 10 minutes.
Well, Graham Lee then. Well, we might try and see if Graham will come and speak to us and tell us a little bit more about his ambitions and how he sees things for Spennymoor. And hopefully we see them begin to climb up a bit. I mean, they do have a couple of games in hand over some of the teams around them as well, so hopefully that'll help. But as we say, Peterborough Sports in a couple of weeks' time is, or week on Saturday is probably a vital game for them to win.
Sorry, Archie, it's interesting just talking about games there. If you look at the games played, teams like Rushall and Buxton, who are smallish clubs, but they have artificial surfaces, so they get their games played by and large.
Yeah.
Clubs like Southport, old established clubs, Spennymoor this season, Kings Lynn, don't have artificial surfaces. Get games called off.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult.
Yeah, because it's all well and good having the games in hand, isn't it? But you've got to get them played, and that means a number of midweek matches that adds to your schedule, so it's not as easy as all that.
I shoot myself in my foot here because Gloucester City have got an artificial surface and they're third off bottom.
Yeah, well.
So anyway,
it's not the it's not the surface that scores the goals.
No, it's not. No, but it just means you can get your games played, and you're not having to make long, unnecessary trips in midweek.
Yeah.
Which I think is the difficulty. And apparently in the National League North, the league don't arrange the fixtures. They leave it to clubs to arrange the fixtures.
What?
They say to clubs, here's a day, here's a block of dates. See who you need to play and see what you can, see if it's all right to play them. So the clubs are given that.
It's not that bad an idea then, is it?
Not really.
As long as it works.
As long as it works, yeah. And of course, there's always going to be anomalies. I think this week, and I'll stand to be corrected on this one, I think this week Gloucester City had to make a midweek trek over to Kings Lynn. Mm-hmm. Now, that would be a fascinating trip, that, wouldn't it? I mean, how on earth do you do that? Gloucester to Kings Lynn on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
But if the game needed to be played, it needed to be played. You can't leave it till the end of the season.
Yeah.
Leagues all have deadlines. They've got to be finished by a certain date. The Northern League's got to finish on the 20th. Mm-hmm. And that means the playoffs will be the 28th and the 7th of May, 6th of May, something like that.
And we intend to be here all the way through until then. I think most of our listeners will probably be able to hear a general shuffling of papers going on in the background, which is your host and your co-host here getting ready to finish up for the evening and head off home for our dinners. Before we do that, I'd like to say thank you very much to Pete for a very succinct summary of everything that's been going on while we've been away. We'll bring you all the results and fixtures in the weeks to come and special guests and so on, as I mentioned before. You're very welcome, everybody, to listen to the podcast on social media. We've got a Facebook page, Pitmatic Productions. You can hear us there. You can also hear us on Spotify and our host platform, Podbean. If you like the show, give it a thumbs up on the social media and share it with as many of your friends as you want. And you can also email us if you've got any questions and comments that you would like us to answer or respond to in some kind of way. You can email us at podcast@pitmatic.productions. podcast@pitmatic.productions. Email us there, any questions and comments, and we'll give you a shout out on the show and hopefully be able to join in some additional discussions with any of your queries. So that's it from us for this evening. A nice short one tonight. We'll maybe be bringing you longer ones coming forward, but we'll see, especially when we have some special guests in. But in the meantime, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you and hear you next time.